Hey, welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Your English will improve today. I hope you believe it, because I do. My name is Gabe, and I'm very happy to be one of your hosts here at Studio Classroom. And here's a question for you. What's your favorite kind of place to explore? People explore the countryside, mountains, caves, deserts, sometimes big houses that have a lot of rooms, and even outer space, the final frontier. But did you know that 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water? And there's a whole world of water wonders beneath the surface of the ocean. The title of today's lesson is Reaching New Depths. We're learning with teacher Zach about his experience getting scuba certified. Did he have to learn any hand signals for communicating underwater? You know, life is full of challenges, and getting used to breathing underwater could be one of them. Well, let's continue with this month's Teacher's Tale right now.
Reaching New Depths. To my surprise, the 3-day training period proved to be anything but a disaster. Our lessons involved 3 parts. First, an instructor introduced us to all of the scuba equipment, as well as the hand signals for communicating underwater. This part wrapped up with a test to make sure we understood what we had just learned. Next, we headed to a swimming pool where we practiced breathing techniques. We began at the pool's surface. Each new technique we practiced allowed us to go deeper in the water. Eventually, we made it to the bottom of the pool.
Okay, so let's continue learning about Zach's experience as he went through the process of learning how to scuba dive. To my surprise, the 3-day training period proved to be anything but a disaster. And we've learned about that phrase before. If it's anything but a disaster, that means it's not a disaster. It's far from it. It's perhaps the opposite. It was enjoyable. It was a pleasant experience. The questions that Zach had were all answered. He had no more worries. It was anything but a disaster. But we want to talk about something at the beginning of this sentence, to my surprise, or to one's surprise. This is a very useful kind of phrase. It means here, I was surprised that. So to my surprise, or I was surprised that.
For example, to my surprise, our 8-hour layover at the airport went by very fast. Now, typically when you think of an 8-hour layover, you think, wow, that's a really long time. Is it ever going to end? Are we really ever going to leave? Well, to my surprise, it went by pretty fast.
Okay, so think of another situation where you might use this phrase, to my surprise, or to her surprise, or his surprise, if you're writing a story about somebody. Our lessons involved 3 parts. First, an instructor introduced us to all of the scuba equipment, as well as the hand signals for communicating underwater. And, of course, these are some very important things for you to learn how to work with your scuba equipment. Rebecca, do you still know how to assemble your scuba equipment before going into the water?
That's a really good question, Gabe. I think I might need to review, or perhaps I need a refresher course. It's been several years since I've been scuba diving.
Yeah, you know what? I went to Guam a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. It was after you went. And I went to one of those scuba diving shops, got some scuba gear for pretty cheap, and you're supposed to go with somebody scuba diving. That's not something our lesson mentions, but it's very important to have a buddy. It's called the buddy system. I went by myself. It was a solo dive, and I had kind of forgotten how to assemble the scuba gear, but it's okay. I just went on YouTube and watched how somebody else did it, and so I did it by myself. I had an okay dive. It was afterwards that someone, or a lot of people, reminded me, Gabe, that's really dangerous. Like, you're not a super experienced diver. It's still important to go with somebody else. And I survived, obviously, but I just wanted to remind you, friends, whenever you go scuba diving, it is good to have a buddy for several reasons.
Definitely, that's a great reminder. Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll probably never go scuba diving alone again, right?
Well, let's continue on with our lesson. Actually, we want to talk about hand signals. Like this. When you're learning to scuba dive, you might think that this thumbs up means okay, I'm okay. But actually, underwater, thumbs up means, hey, I need to go up. So it's important to learn those hand signals.
Right. So when you're scuba diving, you don't want to be using this signal if you're okay. Definitely not. You want to use this signal. Is everything okay?
Okay, exactly. You can't hear each other underwater, but okay. Right. And of course, there are some other important hand signals that you need to know when you're learning how to scuba dive. Okay, this is all important for communicating underwater. This part wrapped up with a test to make sure we understood what we had just learned. Next, we headed to a swimming pool where we practiced breathing techniques, another very important thing.
Yes, indeed. We began at the pool's surface. Each new technique we practiced allowed us to go deeper in the water. Eventually, we made it to the bottom of the pool. Now, can we take a look at that word, eventually? What does that word mean, Gabe?
Yes, okay. Eventually is a very useful word for you, whether in speaking or writing something. This means through time or over time, perhaps including a process of experiences.
For example, you could say, it took a long time, but Sarah and George eventually made it to the top of the mountain. So they're out hiking, and it took a long time, but eventually they made it to the top.
Rebecca had an 8-hour layover, but eventually she boarded the plane and flew home. And friends, think of another way to use that word. Well, when you are in the ocean, you could sink or you could swim. Have you heard that phrase before?
Yes, but Gabe, we need to learn more about that in the Info Cloud.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Info Cloud. Joe and I were just talking about his experience of getting into graduate school in Taipei.
Yes, it was really sink or swim. If I didn't pass the entrance exam, I couldn't attend the program.
I like the phrase you used to describe your experience, sink or swim.
This is a great expression to use when you want to say that there are only two choices, failure or success.
The phrase is especially used when talking about a single person's effort deciding the end result of something.
Right. Imagine a person jumping into a pool of water. They only have two choices. They can either do nothing and sink to the bottom of the pool, or they can start to swim in the water.
So to use this phrase, someone might talk about a situation a person is facing and then describe it as sink or swim.
Life is hard. Sometimes it's just sink or swim.
From this sentence, I can know that the speaker means some situations in life are a matter of failure or success with very little in between.
When you're facing a sink or swim situation, focus on doing your best. In those situations, you can only control the effort, not the result.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom. I was just brushing up on my scuba diving information. Of course, one of the things you need to learn when going scuba diving is how to work with the equipment that you have. And of course, you need to learn those hand signals, proper breathing techniques underwater. There's so much to learn and a lot for me to review since I haven't been in a while. Okay, well, we need to continue with Zach's story about how he learned how to scuba dive right now.
Reaching new depths. On day 3, we took all of our new knowledge to the ocean. After suiting up in all our equipment, we followed our instructor's lead into the water. We made sure to follow each step of the process carefully. Before I knew it, I was really scuba diving. An attitude for life. I hovered above the ocean floor as all kinds of fish swam by. I felt gladness for the opportunity to literally discover new depths. With Doris's words still ringing in my ears, I knew the experience gave me a new attitude for life.
You know what? It is good to brush up on your scuba diving skills if you're going to go scuba diving again very soon.
Oh, yes. Is that what you're doing right there? I noticed that you have a scuba diving book.
Yeah, I'm trying to get myself excited about maybe going scuba diving again very soon because I really enjoy it and I need to get out more. You know what they say? Right after you get scuba certified, the first thing they tell you is to plan a trip because sometimes you have a certification, you know how to do something, but then you just kind of put it on your shelf and you don't do anything with it. So friends, if you get scuba certified or certified for anything for that matter, go and do something about it. Actually get good experience.
That's right. Well, let's get right back to our lesson. We need to continue learning about Zach's experience. We read on day 3. We took all of our new knowledge to the ocean. And I think that's also really important. So the first few days, or the first day, they spend a lot of time doing the book work and going into a pool. But now, as Zach is saying, they took all of this information to the ocean, and that's where scuba diving gets exciting.
Exactly. Okay, so on day 3, this is what we did. After suiting up in all of our equipment, we followed our instructor's lead into the water. And an instructor is so important in a situation like this because everybody is nervous. What's going to happen when you get in the water for the first time? So you need to make sure that you follow the instructor's lead. That is not just following somebody. It also has the idea of doing what they do, following their example.
For example, growing up, whenever me and my siblings would go biking with our dad, we would always follow our dad's lead. Why? Well, because he was the experienced biker and we were just children.
And so what that might include is letting him make the decision about where to turn because he knows the roads best as well. So it's not just about doing what somebody's doing, but learning from their experience and why they're making certain decisions. So following someone's lead really involves more than just blindly walking behind somebody or doing something like that. Well, we made sure to follow each step of the process carefully. Before I knew it, I was really scuba diving. Let's take a look at that phrase. It's kind of a fun phrase. Before I knew it. Or if you're writing about somebody else, before he knew it. Before she knew it, right? Before I had the time to think about what was happening. That's what this phrase means.
For example, Phil spent several hours going through his homework. He thought he was never going to finish. Well, before he knew it, he was all done. Just happened like that.
Before you know it, you're done. And often that happens when you're having fun, right, Rebecca?
Yes, usually it happens when you're having fun, more so than when you're studying. But when I was in college, it used to happen when I was studying too.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I had so much to study and not very much time. But the time just went by really fast.
Well, that's a good reminder, friends. I always like to encourage students, and not just students in school, but life students, to enjoy what you're learning. Even if you think it's an unpleasant subject like math, or maybe there's something unpleasant about your job that you have to do, but you can learn how to do it in an enjoyable way, hopefully, and it could be a skill that at least contributes to your overall skill set and something that you can use in another aspect of life.
That's right. You know, it actually takes less time just to do something than to spend a lot of time thinking about how you don't want to do it, like laundry. If I would just do the laundry, then guess what? Before I know it, I'll be done.
Exactly. Great point. Okay, and that's a great attitude for life. And that's the next section as well. It's called an attitude for life. I hovered above the ocean floor as all kinds of fish swam by. That's that's the great thing about scuba diving is seeing the sea life, right? Whether it's the fish or the coral. I felt gladness for the opportunity to literally discover new depths. And of course, he's not talking about becoming depressed, reaching new depths, but getting deeper in the ocean.
With Doris's words still ringing in my ears, meaning that he could still hear those words in his ears, I knew the experience gave me a new attitude for life. And I hope today's lesson will also encourage you and give you a new attitude for life as well.
It's never too late to learn something new, and it's never too late to review our lesson. Let's do that right now with
a review skit.
Our first dive. Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, hovering over the ocean as fish swam by is amazing. It's an opportunity to discover new depths.
Literally. Man, so what made you decide to start diving?
Well, Doris always stresses that we should learn new things.
Mm-hmm. Doris Brone, the founder of Studio Classroom?
Yeah, she sent a group of us to take scuba classes together.
Oh, don't you know? You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, but our attitude at Studio Classroom is it's never too late to learn something new.
I agree. Life is full of challenges. A willingness to learn can help us overcome obstacles.
Exactly. And besides, I'm not an old dog quite yet.
Oh, you're right. Hey, did you have any doubts about learning to dive?
Oh, yeah. Worries cause me to panic. Can I swim with all the scuba gear? What if something goes wrong? How can I signal to other divers? I was struck with an overpowered feeling of fear.
But you overcame, man.
Yeah, to my surprise, the 3-day training period wasn't a disaster.
No, not at all. The first day, the instructor introduced us to all of the scuba equipment and hand signals and all the things we would use for communicating underwater.
And it wrapped up with a test, and we passed.
Yeah! The next day, we headed to a swimming pool, practiced breathing techniques. We began at the surface, learning new techniques, and eventually, we made it to the bottom of the pool.
And today, we take our knowledge to the ocean.
Yeah!
After suiting up, we followed our instructor's lead into the water.
We followed each step carefully, and before we knew it, we were really scuba diving.
Yeah! And Doris's words are still ringing in my ears. A willingness to learn can help us overcome obstacles.
And it's really true. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Hey, come on, old dog. Let's get going.
Yes, you can sometimes teach an old dog new tricks. Hey, speaking of new things, there's something new in your magazine this month called the Reader's Toolkit. It used to be called the Scrapbook. Anyway, it is a great way for you to review and use those usage tips that you see each month and all the vocabulary and some other things as well. That's on pages 56 and 57 of your September magazine. Okay, next time we have a completely different lesson for you right here on Studio Classroom. See you then. Oh, hello. Welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Your English will improve today. My name is Gabe. You know, I was on a flight once from one city in India to another city, and I was talking with a passenger next to me, and the topic of trash came up because the streets of a lot of cities of India are lined with trash. And I said, it's kind of unfortunate that there's so much trash. And he said, yeah, but think of it this way. It's kind of part of the culture. But friends, I disagree. I don't think that trash should ever be part of anybody's culture. The name of today's lesson is Zero Waste, Full Recycle. A zero waste lifestyle is one where you try to create no waste or trash. It doesn't sound possible, does it? I mean, you have to throw your trash away somewhere, but it is a good idea or a goal to have, and of course, it's only possible if we commit to doing things like reducing our use of things or reusing things that we have or perhaps recycling some of those things. That's known as circular economy. Okay, more on that later. I need to pick the rest of this up and we need to get started.
Zero waste, full recycle. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Jacques-Yves Cousteau, the French explorer, once pointed out, population growth is the primary source of environmental damage. As the world's population continues to increase, so does the amount of global waste people produce. According to data collected by the World Bank Group, nations are on pace to generate 4 billion tons of waste annually by the year 2100. Many experts are calling the growing problem of global waste a worldwide health crisis. The reason being that pollution from trash is not only wrecking the world's oceans, air, and soil, but also endangering people's health as well as the livelihood of all living creatures.
Hey, Gabe, what's that smell?
Rebecca, what do you mean, what's that smell?
I smell like trash or something?
No, you smell trash?
Yeah. What?
Okay, I think I know what it is.
What?
I was picking up trash earlier, and so I think maybe my clothes smell like trash now.
You probably spilled something on you and didn't wash your clothes.
Maybe.
Ew.
I washed my hands, but that just happens sometimes when you're out doing community service, like a good person, good, decent citizen. Mm-hmm. Then sometimes you might smell like trash afterwards.
Well, make sure when you go home, wash your clothes, okay?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good reminder. I will. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you, Michelle, and let's get right into our lesson, Zero Waste, Full Recycle. All right, the idea is right there in the title, the idea of having no waste at all. Rebecca, do you think that's possible?
To have no waste?
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think that it's possibly possible.
Possibly
maybe,
possible.
Or at least to reduce the amount of waste that we have. Mm-hmm. If people would be more careful about recycling and doing other things to cut down on the waste.
All right, well, think about that, friends. We see here a phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I guess we'll take a look more at that idea further in our lesson. But before we do that, basically that's the idea that for some people it might be trash, but for other people maybe they're really looking for something and it's really valuable to them.
For example, let's say that you have a friend who is throwing away an old shirt. They just don't want the shirt anymore because maybe they don't like the color and they bought a new shirt. And you see that shirt and you're like, wait, don't throw it away. One man's trash is another man's treasure. I want that shirt.
Funny you should use that as an example because that's exactly what happened when I left my previous house with my roommates. Angus was throwing a shirt away and it looked really cool. So I just took it from him. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Okay, we read here about a famous person, Jacques-Yves Cousteau. The French explorer once pointed out, population growth is the primary source of environmental damage. It's such a negative thing to think about. The idea that making more humans, which is a good thing, is actually just damaging the environment.
Oh, that's rather unfortunate. But Gabe, I really do like that phrase, to point out. What does the phrase to point something out mean?
Ah, right, of course. This means to bring something to somebody's attention or to make people notice something that perhaps they hadn't noticed before.
For example, let's say that Sammy was getting ready to walk out the door to go to a nice dinner, when all of a sudden her sister stopped her and said, Sammy, you have some cat fur on your shirt. She nicely pointed out that there was some cat fur on the shirt.
That's right. She pointed it out. Let's jump down 2 sentences. According to the data collected by the World Bank Group, nations are on pace to generate 4 million tons of waste annually by the year 2100. That phrase, on pace, means that we're heading steadily in a certain direction.
For example, Mandy is on pace to graduate next May. If everything goes as planned, she'll definitely graduate.
And that's a positive example. It's great to graduate. It's not great to produce 4 billion tons of waste in less than 100 years. Okay, let's jump down another sentence. The reason being pollution is that being pollution from trash is not only wrecking the world's oceans, air, and soil, but also endangering people's health as well as the livelihood of all living creatures. Okay, so this is a terrible thing, and I really hope that it doesn't happen. We have to do something about this.
Well, that's exactly what our lesson is encouraging people to do. Do something. We'll learn more about that later, but right now it's time for us to learn something new in the Info Cloud.
Welcome to InfoCloud. There are many figures from the Bible that are well known to almost all native English speakers, even if they themselves aren't Christian.
If we say something is a story of David versus Goliath, everyone knows that there is a weak person going up against someone incredibly strong.
Or if someone betrays another person, they might be called a Judas, the name of the person who betrayed Jesus.
But there's one strange English expression that uses two biblical figures, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
This expression means to take from one to give to another. The phrase usually indicates you are paying off one debt by taking on another.
For example, if I owe one friend money and then take a loan from a family member to pay off my friend, I am robbing Peter to pay Paul.
This phrase is incredibly old and dates all the way back to the 1300s. Peter and Paul were both apostles and are key figures in Christian history.
One of the reasons this phrase works so well is because you have alliteration, as both Peter and Paul start with the letter P.
Welcome back to Studio Classroom. I hope that you are in a good mood because we just learned the unfortunate fact that it's predicted by the year 2100 that we will be throwing away 4 billion tons of waste annually. And that, of course, is affecting our earth, our oceans, the air, the livelihood of all living creatures. What can we do? Reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Zero waste, full recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Such a dilemma raises the question, is there a more responsible way of dealing with people's refuse? Fortunately, there is. For years, government agencies have been telling citizens that living a zero-waste lifestyle is the way to go. One example of this is what's often called the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. Reducing the use of plastic containers, as well as reusing and recycling bottles and cans, decreases the amount of garbage being sent to landfills. As a result, less money is spent on waste management, and countries' financial burdens are significantly relieved. Such positive effects on an economy, as a result of applying the basic rules of reduce, reuse, and recycle, is known as a circular economy.
Okay, let's look at this section, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So we have a dilemma. The world's oceans, our air, the land, everything is being polluted, and people are the main problem, okay? So such a dilemma raises the question, is there a more responsible way of dealing with people's refuse? Now, let's take a look at that phrase at the beginning of this sentence, to raise the question. This is a good phrase for you to know. Something raises the question. This means that it makes you ask the question. There's a problem or a situation, and it makes you think of a question.
Exactly. For example, a few years ago, I was down in Kaohsiung with a friend, and we were riding on a scooter together going up this hill, and all of a sudden, we saw all of these wild dogs. There was probably at least 50 wild dogs. And just seeing all of those wild dogs raised the question, is there something that we should do about all of these dogs?
That would have raised the question for me, where's the owner? Is there an owner for all these dogs? Are they someone's pets? Or are they just wild dogs?
Well, they were just wild dogs.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. I had never seen so many wild dogs in one specific place. Even the girl that I was riding with was a little nervous about it.
Yeah, that's a little bit scary. Okay, well, that's a great example. Friends, think of another situation that made you think of a question. Use that phrase, it raised the question. Just a quick note at the end of that sentence, of course, the word refuse as a verb to refuse somebody, but here it's a noun and it's pronounced refuse, someone's trash.
Aha, that's right. Moving on. Fortunately, there is. For years, government agencies have been telling citizens that living a zero-waste lifestyle is the way to go, the way to do something. One example of this is what's often called the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle.
And we quickly see what that means. Reducing the use of plastic containers as well as reusing and recycling bottles and cans decreases the amount of garbage being sent to landfills. As a result, less money is spent on waste management and countries' financial burdens are significantly relieved. Okay, so it'll be easier for countries, especially in regards to their financial burdens. A lot of countries, probably most countries, are in debt in some way. Well, that's a financial burden. They have to pay their debts off. But a financial burden in general is some kind of money that you need to pay, and it's a negative thing. It feels like it's weighing you down.
That's right. For example, after Jamie lost her job, she didn't really want to move in with her parents because she didn't want to be a financial burden to them.
That's a very interesting and practical example. A lot of people feel that way. I don't want to be a financial burden to you. Okay, well, you see this picture here. It's the contrast between linear economy, which we'll learn more about tomorrow, and circular economy, and that phrase appears at the end of our lesson today. A circular economy is, of course, when you are reducing, reusing, recycling, and able to use some of those things that you perhaps originally would have just thrown away and gone to the landfill.
That's right. Well, right now it's time for the SC Challenge. Hey everyone, welcome to the SC Challenge. Yes, I know that you're all excited, and so am I. Well, let's meet today's contestants. They are very excited.
That's right. Hi, friends. I'm Pauline. My husband challenged me to a rematch, so I accepted.
Hello, everyone. This is Josh. And one thing I love about my wife is that she's always up for the challenge of trying to beat me.
Well, let's see who's going to win today. Pauline won last time, but you never know. Josh might win this time. Okay, are you guys ready?
Ready.
Bells are ready. Let's get to our first question. According to research done by the World Bank Group, how much waste is expected by the year 2100? So 2100. A, 4 billion tons. B, 4,000 tons. C, 400 tons. Or D, 4 tons. Yes, Josh?
I'm going to go with the biggest number possible, A, 4 billion tons.
A, 4 billion tons. That is correct. Good job. 1 point for Josh. Well, next question. Number 2. Trash destroys the environment. We know that, right? Which of the following is an example of something impacted by trash but is not discussed in the lesson? A, the ocean. B, the air. C, animals. Or D, soil. Yes, Pauline?
Soil.
Soil. D, soil? That's a good guess, but actually that's not correct. Yes?
I'm going to go B, the air.
B, the air! No, that's not correct. Yes, Pauline.
The ocean?
The ocean. No, that's not correct. What is the correct answer? Yes.
Animals.
Animals. Yes, animals are impacted by trash, but it's actually not discussed in the lesson. So 2 points for Josh. Last question. Which of the following is not one of the 3 R's? A, reuse. B, reduce? C, replay, or D, recycle? Yes, Pauline.
I know this one. Replay.
C, replay. That is correct. You both did a great job, but Josh does have 2 points, so he is today's winner. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure you answered all the questions correctly. We will see you next time.
Well, it is always good to face challenges. And hey, I don't know if you've had a chance to yet, but in your magazine, there's a page called Reader's Toolkit. It's a chance for you to practice some of those usage tips from this month and a lot of the key words. And some of it I wrote myself, but that's not important. Anyway, today we learned about the importance of reducing, reusing, and recycling. That's called circular economy. We're going to learn more about circular economy next time right here on Studio Classroom.